Okay.
Okay. Here we are, guys. This is Reflections on the Journey. Thank you so much for joining us. Lynette Elinda and myself, Graham Wardle, we are your hosts. We're going to guide you through this process. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to take questions online here too. So if you have questions, if you didn't get your question in on time, you can always drop us a comment in the comment section, and I will be reading that as well. So we have lots of questions. We have people from all over the world joining us, which I'm very grateful for.
Can I have a word in edgewise?
Yes.
Just hi. Hi there.
Go ahead, Lynette.
Who's here? Who's here? Tell us who's
okay.
here.
We got a bunch of people here. We have Dawn Wilkes. Good morning. It's 3 a.m. in the UK. Well, thank you, Dawn, for joining us.
Hi.
We got Barbara Holloway. We got Michelle McKinsky. Sorry, Michelle, if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. South Africa, Johanna. Hello, Johanna. And Arizona, Nancy is from Arizona.
Wow.
Louisiana, Texas. Amazing. Australia, Virginia. This is great, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, welcome. We're really looking forward to this. Definitely looking forward to this.
And this is something new for me. I've never done live. You've had a radio show. You've done live.
Yeah, lots of live. So. Started live, flat out. First show was 3, 2, 1, and go. That was it. So yeah, I'm comfortable with this.
Awesome.
For sure.
Well, so this show is all about continuing the conversation around Mathamagical and answering people's questions about the first chapter of the book, which is called The Great Awakening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of an introduction to Mathamagical, what you can expect, what you promise, what's to be in store.
What's coming? So did you want to start? You've written out.
Yeah, I have some questions
here. Do
here.
you want to start with our questions, or you just want to dive in simultaneously? We're winging this, by the way. We're just kind of trying to figure out the best way. Let's give away. Let's do a giveaway,
because we had a bunch of people, lots of people actually enter to win a copy of Mathamagical. So we put a bunch of all the little pieces down. Everyone who asked to enter to win, we put your name in a hat. So we're actually going to draw a name.
It's Graham's smelly baseball cap, actually.
Yeah. Well, hey,
it's not nice.
It's a hat.
It works.
Okay, Lynette. Who's going to be our first one?
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to read this name. Who do we got here? Valder M.G. Freitas.
Freitas. So, Valder, I'm going to assume that you have the details.
I do have the details.
You will get a copy of Mathamagical.
So there is one of our giveaways there. I guess we might do more.
Well, yeah, we've actually decided, because there was such a great response, that we might have to give away more than one copy today. So if we haven't pulled your name yet, stay tuned. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a few today. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's start with one of the things that you brought up in chapter 1 of the book.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the greater good. If it's not for the greater good, it will collapse. It's not sustainable. So how does one know if something is for the greater good?
Well, essentially, we have to come to understand that there's really only one of us here. Okay. I know that sounds really abstract for a lot of us, but it's the truth. There really is only one of us here. And as such, if there is something that isn't good for all of us, it's essentially going to be unsustainable and will collapse. And that's what we're seeing happening in the world right now, is we're seeing that collapse. An example I could give you would be to say, if you were to decide that you were going to take care of your entire body except for your left arm, you weren't going to take care of your left arm, but you're going to take everything else.
Just for some reason you don't like your left arm.
Right. You just decided to cut it off, and you weren't gonna do anything with it. Okay. So at that point, essentially what happens is that everything else will eventually begin to collapse. Slowly, it begins to collapse, because that left arm is a part of the whole.
Okay.
Okay, it's a part of the whole thing, and you just simply can't do that. And it is also true for us. So where we see systems where some people are benefiting and others are suffering, for example, let's look at the current financial system. The banks benefit, but the people don't.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about investments, you and I, quite a bit. And, the bank will lend you money at, what was it? I don't know.
Oh,
2%.
Well, it's pretty cheap now to lend money, but it's also, you get nothing in interest.
Well, this is it, right? Except that when the bank loans you money,
they make money.
Oh, they make a lot more money. Okay. So these are the kinds of things that we're talking about. And that happens on multiple layers. So right now, the Great Awakening is essentially us coming to understand that if it isn't for the greater good of all, it's not sustainable. And it's in the process of collapsing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
A
yeah,
little
it
bit more?
does. So it's
Yeah.
about the greater good of all being all of humanity.
Yes, all of humanity as well as the planet. I was out on the beach again today, and as many of you know, I love to go out on the beach every day. It's my battery, and I've noticed that there's so much more live wildlife
Mm,
this year than last year on the beach. You know, so essentially, the shutdown is not great for humanity in some ways, but it is really good for nature.
I remember when it first started, and there
Yeah,
was those videos
yeah.
of dolphins. I think it was in Italy or something that they were
Mhm,
coming into the
mhm.
canals.
So many things happening. So this great awakening that's revealing what is not for the greater good can be a little bit tricky because it can be kind of mixed up in with what is for the greater good. It's a bit of a
Mhm.
tricky thing, and definitely a really big question to answer fully. So the long and the short of it is, if it isn't good for everybody, it isn't good for anybody, and it's got to go. It's like a lie. If you tell a lie, you're eventually going to get caught. There's not much point
Right,
in telling the lie.
right.
So essentially, anything that isn't for the greater good of all is a lie.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. We've
Okay.
had a few people asking here about the heart behind us. So
Oh,
Lynette is
yeah.
all about hearts, but Lynette, tell us the story of why
Right.
hearts are so significant to you.
Well, and I can also answer the question we had. I think somebody asking about mathematical. We had a question here. Somebody asking. So, hearts are my logo. I love hearts. It's always been my thing. I speak straight from the heart. My radio show is called Straight from the Heart, and the heart behind us has been created by a local artist. She did it in a bit of a hurry for us. We really appreciate it. It smells really good in here,
Yeah, it does.
and we're encouraging her to start a company to make these kinds of projects that are biodegradable. It's good for the environment, and the heart is essentially standing for the Mathamagical logo as well as mine. And it smells good, and
And it
it's
smells good.
festive,
Yeah.
and it's biodegradable. It's all those things. So, the question we had was,
Yeah, we got a question from Deborah Crittner here. And she asks, how did you and Graham meet? And will you tell him I said hi? Well, hi.
"Hi."
Hi,
Deb
Deborah.
says hi.
I met Lynette. My agent, she gifted me a session with Lynette years ago now. I think it
Mhm.
was four,
For a
four
little
years,
over 4
4
years
years
now,
now.
I think, yeah, yeah.
And so that's how we met. We did a Skype Zoom call and a little session I had with Lynette, and we talked about all the things that Lynette talks about in Mathamagical and many
Mhm.
more.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's how we met.
That's how it started.
Yeah, that's how we
Yeah,
started. We've been
yeah.
working together for
I
4
I've
years.
worked by referral for many years. I'm only just beginning to go public now. So anybody who's been in my world for years now is somebody that came through a referral circle because that's how I've done things.
Hmm.
And then there was another question about
How did you come up with Mathamagical, and what was the reasoning behind it?
right. Well, I came up with Mathamagical in a dream. I woke up one morning and I was told that I was to record a book. It became evident that I was to record it when I met Graham, or actually a little while after meeting Graham, uh, and that I was to call it Mathamagical. And of course, as anybody who knows that's started to read the book, they understand the mathematical connection is that connection that we make between the head and the heart. And that's what it's all about. So to say the honest answer would be I was divinely inspired in a dream.
Mm,
That's the quick answer. Okay.
awesome. Irene asks, well, first of all, Irene says, hi, Irene.
Hi, Irene.
She says, congrats on the amazing audiobook. It makes me feel
Thank
so
you.
peaceful, relaxed,
Thank
and
you.
calm while listening to Lynette's beautiful voice. And I love the music you've chosen. Who wrote the music for Mathamagical? The music for Mathamagical was written by a collection of artists, and it's from a website called Epidemic
Yeah.
Sound. So basically, it's a website where artists will come and they will license their music to the website, and then people like myself will come in and select tracks that work for the project that I'm working on and such. So all those tracks, I can actually upload a list of the artists for people to, if they wanted to listen to that music
Mhm.
separately from the book, they can do that. So I will.
And I want to add that Graham put so much effort into finding the music. And because we actually recorded the book during the initial shutdown that was only supposed to last 2 weeks, we were scrambling to find people that we could work with because of the shutdown. So you were very resourceful. And Graham has put so many hours of dedication and passion into the
Oh,
project.
thank you, Lynette.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
inspiring. It was fun for me to do
yeah.
because you kind of have to go and find the right music to go with your voice and the tone of the subject matter and kind of elevate
Again,
it.
it's such as an editor and producer, I have to say thank you so much. Again, I know I've said it 1,000 times. I'll keep saying it. I really will. Thank you.
Let's jump
Okay.
into another question here about how does one come to recognize the truth that there is only one of us here?
Wow.
Because
Okay.
that's a concept that I've heard
That's
before.
a
People saying there's
little
only one of us
question.
here, but how does one come to that place where they
Right.
understand that to be true?
That sounds like the kind of question you'd ask, Graham.
It's my
I have to
question.
tell you, working with Graham was not easy. Okay. He likes to put my feet to the fire and make sure that I'm not telling him lies. So jump right into that. How to come to know that is essentially through experience. Who and what we are is the truth. We've been programmed to believe that the truth is our perspective or our subjective reality, that of the individual personality's experience. And that's not the truth. That's subjective reality. And if we were to call that the truth, well, it's going to make us crazy. And you can see that it does, because my experience of something is not going to be somebody else's experience of something. I mean, like, take us, for example.
Mhm.
You know, I'm a middle-aged woman, and you're what are you, 19 or something?
I think I'm 34 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 34. So we would, no matter what, we would have a different perspective for our experiences, right? So the truth is that which unites us all. The truth is the perspective that shows us what is really happening, not what we might be projecting or imagining or worrying about, or what might be seen from the individual perspective. So coming to know the truth is actually something that happens through experience. Coming to know the truth happens when we start to let go of the lies, when we start to let go of what we've been told about ourselves, our story, who we are, what we are, and we start to embrace who and what we really are. That's when we start to see the truth. And one of the wonderful things about the truth is that it unites us. When we start to see the truth, and you and I, Graham, the creative project of Mathamagical was pretty intense.
Yes.
I'd
Creative
love to see
process.
the bloopers happen. They would be really good. There were certain points where you and I had to, take a breather. I think you went
I
for a
think it was
walk
me that had
around.
to take the breather.
Yeah, because I was driving him crazy. You had to take a walk around the block a couple of times, and that allowed you to focus
Yeah.
and come back to see what was really happening, what really mattered. It allowed us both to focus, right? To see what was at the heart of the matter. It allowed us that time to let go of what, might have been our triggers, those kinds of things. So when we're in a trigger, I'm digressing a bit here. When we're in a trigger, we're not actually living the truth. What we're doing is we're actually living our idea of the story about that particular issue.
Where we're triggered, we're emotional about something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it could be, say you were in a trigger, you thought that I said something that I didn't actually say, but your perspective is one that says, well, you said that. Okay, so that's going to be in a trigger. That's not the truth. That'll be your trigger. That'll be the subjective perspective, the individual personalities.
And how do you
Version
know
of
that
it.
you've got to the truth, the actual truth?
You'll know that you got to the truth. Well, this one you can answer yourself, is because it creates unity. It creates peace. There's a win-win. We start to recognize that we're all coming from different perspectives and we're all doing the best that we can. When we start to see the truth, we can start to make room for each other. And then unity is able to rise up from that place.
So it comes from a still place as opposed to like in your head or really emotional place, or
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I think that you can see the truth and still be feeling, perhaps emotional or passionate about something.
Okay.
But it will create unity. You could be going, okay, Graham, okay, I agree with you. All right, we'll do it again. Take
No, I didn't do
4,692.
that many
Oh,
takes.
yeah.
I
Oh,
didn't do
yeah.
that many takes
Oh,
for the
yeah, he
record.
did. Yeah. Okay, I lied. 4,604.
So unity is
unity
the
is the
litmus test
perspective.
to
Yeah.
to understand, is this the truth or is this my subjective story?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And the truth will always unite us. The truth will set us free. And I know there's a lot of people here who believe in the Bible and are Christians listening, and that is what they refer to in the Bible, that the truth shall set you free. Jesus the Christ had once said, know thyself, to thine own self be true, and the truth will set you free. So when you come to know who and what you really are, which is a loving being, not somebody who's wrong or bad, and that nobody else is either. When we come to know this truth, it sets us free and it creates unity. And that's how you and I do it. Despite our challenges in creating together and obstacles that would, traditionally, make a lot of people want to kill each other. Okay.
Stop throwing me under the bus here, okay?
No, I think he wanted to kill me.
So how about, let's just dig into this a little bit more for me. I hope you guys are interested in this as well. But for me, I want to find out, So the truth brings unity. That's how you know you're reaching the truth.
Yes,
But
it'll bring freedom. It'll bring unity. It'll bring resolution. Things will start to move. The solution will start to present itself. Everybody will start to calm down. These are different.
How about when there's an unhealthy dynamic, where there's a boundary that needs to be set up? Sometimes, there needs to be a distance, or there needs to be a sort of if someone's being abusive.
Yes.
You can't have unity in that. You can't have if someone's,
So if somebody's being abusive, then the first thing that we have to do is recognize the truth that somebody's being abusive. And oftentimes in abusive relationships, and I work with a lot of people who are in abusive relationships, oftentimes we are in denial about the abuse. We don't see the truth, and we continue to suffer.
We give up our integrity. We give up our power.
We give up our power. We give up our freedom. We give up the choices that we have over our own lives.
And so that's like a surface level understanding of unity, where it's like, I'm going to give up my power to make sure that the relationship stays together.
Well, no, that's not a surface level of unity. I would say that that's a false idea about unity.
Idea. Okay.
True unity will bring freedom. Like I said, it'll unite us. If it's false, for example, someone who says, okay, I don't want to recognize that my partner is being abusive, that's a lie. They're denying it. And that will never bring unity. That will be superficial, faking it.
Okay.
And you can only fake it so long, right?
Okay. I'm going to jump in with Roni here. Chastain. She says, I had a breakthrough while listening to Mathamagical. It was a huge trigger for me. Once I understood it was a trigger, it helped to have a different reaction to the trigger. Awesome.
Okay, so actually, Roni, I'd like to say, instead of saying that you had a different reaction to the trigger as a result of seeing what it was, you're now responding to the trigger. There's a whole difference between reacting, which is knee-jerk, you may not know what you're going to do, and responding, which is coming from that still conscious, contemplative place that says, how am I going to choose to proceed here? What do I really want to do? So congratulations. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. It is absolutely one of my objectives in sharing with people how to come to that place. It's tremendous. And you can now watch, Roni, it's going to start to happen in other parts of your life too. You'll start to see other triggers get easier and easier to diffuse. And then you'll get faster and faster at it. And then you'll get to the point where things will be going off around you that you'd normally want to, kill somebody for. Yeah. And you won't need to do that anymore. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful breakthrough. Congratulations. Yeah, good.
Coy says, what advice for looking at things and people by their true nature? And what is your thoughts on the impermanence and interconnectedness? Thank you, Lynette and Graham, for your work.
Wow, Coy. Okay. Coy's very intelligent. Can you ask me Coy's question again? I think I can.
Advice for looking at things and people by their true nature. And what are your thoughts on impermanence and interconnectedness?
Okay, so we'll answer the first one, which is thoughts about how to look at people for their true nature. I would say then don't practice Joe jobs. If you want to see somebody for who and what they really are, don't judge them, don't have an opinion, and don't have an expectation. And then if you observe from that still place, you'll see people will reveal themselves. People will show you who they really are. And this is where I would say sip people, don't gulp. Okay. Take
your time.
Take your time. Don't rush in. Get to know. I'll often say to people, and we've discussed this too in how many hundreds of hours of conversations we've had about, so many of us are going out and dating people, getting to know people now. There's so much change happening on the world. And we jump right in, and I'll say to people, you know what? I really recommend that you take a good 3 months before you really commit, especially before you become physically intimate with this person. Once you become physically intimate, you lose your objectivity. Definitely. We form a bond, and each gender does that in a kind of a different way. So if we wait 3 months, you'll find typically if you take sips for 3 months, everybody will show you everything that you want to know about them. It'll be revealed. So take your time. And then the second question was?
Interconnectedness and
of
impermanence.
Okay, impermanence, interconnectedness. I think that is
big
actually, it is a big topic, and it's definitely veering off the subject of the first chapter. But Coy, I know you and I've been in touch, so I'll definitely address that one with you alone. Okay, good question though. Very good question.
Tammy asks, Graham, you've talked before about the left side of your body representing the inner world and the right representing the outer. Is this something that you learned from your work with Lynette or reading? Tammy, this is actually, I don't know if I actually learned this anywhere. It's just based on my tattoos. And I think it may have been somewhere, I may have read it somewhere, but is that an actual thing? The left and right side of your body representing different inner and outer?
When the intuitive sensitivities start to come through, which they do for all of us, when we begin to awaken to our truth, your intuitive sensitivities start to come through. And I talk about the fact that I use them, and I'm here to teach people how to begin to remember to use them. So as they come in, those intuitive sensitivities, they'll speak to each person's body in a different way. So for me, say for example, I'm near a woman who's pregnant, or walking past a woman on the street. If she's carrying a girl, the right side of my body will tingle. If she's carrying a boy, the left side of my body will tingle. So everybody kind of has their own way of interpreting things, and it'll be at that level, it's subjective. So at that level, you can't say that it would be true to say that everybody receives intuition exactly the same way. It'll come through the same system, but each person's body is going to receive it a little bit differently. And that'll be how the person receives the information. So if we look at, just digress for a sec, if we look at dreams, okay, dreams are subjective. And when we're interpreting our dreams, you don't want to be looking at what a book tells you spiders mean in a dream. You want to look at what spiders mean to you. So what are the subjects that come up to you in the dream, and what do they mean to you? And intuition is the same, as well as interpreting how information comes in the body.
Is there masculine and feminine sort of like upper, lower? I've heard that before. I think in yoga that they say like the left side of the body is more feminine and the right is more masculine. Is that true? Or
Well, I can't speak to that. I've never heard of that. And
I think I've heard that somewhere. Maybe that's why I said that, Tammy, and maybe that's how it got out there. I actually don't know, to answer your question, but
yeah. So my version of that would be that everybody receives information in a different way, in a slightly different way. It does come through the same system for everybody, but a slightly different way. Yeah. So sorry, we can't quite answer that one. Hope that answers your question.
Let's jump over to the title of the first chapter, which is The Great Awakening. Can you talk about what is the Great Awakening and how great is the Great Awakening? Because the more I've talked with you,
wow,
the more I realize that
all
this
these
Great
little
Awakening
questions
is not like just like this thing, like, oh, it's the Great Awakening, like cool.
Yeah,
like,
shaky, wake up, have a cup of coffee.
Like
no,
there's gonna be like
no, we are really just essentially beginning the Great Awakening, which has been in planning, you could say, since the beginning of time. Humanity is now at a point where we're awakening to who and what we really are, not what we've been taught and programmed to believe. One of my tips and tools here is re-examine what you've been told and sold, and dismiss what insults your soul. So we're awakening now to the truth, which says, some humans should not be living high on the hog and enjoying complete abundance while others are suffering. This is not loving. This is not creating sustainability. Okay, so the Great Awakening is humanity is awakening on multiple levels to the truth of who and what we are, and it is going to make change like we've never seen. We're never going back to the way things were. We're evolving. We're actually moving towards world peace. That's the truth. I know it looks like it's crazy out there right now, but it's kind of like, when you're going through a move. I've moved many times. I've lived many, many different places all over the world. And when you're going through a move, there's certain points where it looks really crazy and you just want to give in and you want to cry. And then in the next moment, all of a sudden it starts to come together. And we're in that moment where you want to cry and it's looking pretty crazy. And I want to say, go to the guide inside, meditate, stay in touch with the truth of who and what we are, which comes through the mathemagical connection. And you will be guided at a subjective level, personally, through the Great Awakening by your guides, as well as the fact that your guides will bring other guides to you in the physical story. I act as one of these guides, as I have for you, Graham. Maybe you want to share a little bit about that story that you had. You'd asked for
a guide. Oh, yeah, this is actually a cool story.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I consciously asked for it, but it was a story that I wrote. And this is something that's actually, I don't know how, it's just, it works for me. Some people, they have vision boards. For me, I write scripts or I write stories, and it tends to happen in my life. So I wrote a script about it was a young guy that went out into the woods, and he found a mentor, and the mentor taught him how to be in tune with like Jedi sort of skills, like Star Wars kind of things. And so I wrote the story years ago. And then after working with Lynette for a few years, I was like, oh, this is like exactly what I wrote in my story. But in my story, it was a male, and you're a female. And I didn't see that, because normally in stories and movies and such, the old wise sage,
it's always a man, right?
It's always a man.
Yeah. Well, this is something that I think we really have to address, is that we've been taught through the subjective programming, through the narrative of mainstream society, what these guides and teachers are supposed to look like.
Yes, how they're supposed to behave.
For the Great Awakening, those that are guiding us through the Great Awakening. And again, like Graham had the expectation through programming that it be a male. And I don't think you expected that it was going to be
I did not. And it
a
wasn't until
female.
after I was like, this is exactly the story that I wrote.
Yeah.
So that's something for me that I'm conscious of. And I'm like, oh man, what you put out there, you are manifesting. Your thoughts create that sort of.
Exactly. And this is
You have
something
to be
I
very
want to
conscious
say
of that.
for everybody listening to Mathamagical now. As you start to tune into it, you will start to see that the events in your life begin to change. Get prepared for the magic to start to come in simply because you've begun to put your focus on it. Remember the first law: like attracts like. If you ask for guidance, if you ask for support and you're open to receiving it, and that's usually the part where we drop the ball, if you're actually open to receiving it, it will come. And I have to speak on my own behalf here in saying that there have been so many times throughout my life. I began doing this work when I was a child. I knew that I had the sensitivities then. There have been so many times throughout my life since then when I was guided to speak to complete strangers and deliver messages that changed their life. I am the channel. I am not saying that I'm God or anything of such nature at all. I'm saying that we act as a messenger and a guide for each other. And since you worked with me, you have now come to do that for others.
I have.
You have come, we become the way and the light. When we step into our own truth, the truth of who and what we all are, we awaken, we become the way, we become the light. We begin to live that. And this is what Mathamagical is about.
It's a surrendering to that too, because it's not like
powerful
it's not
surrendering.
Graham that becomes that. It's like I give myself up to that, right?
Well,
Or what do you mean? But
one of
explain
the
more.
things, one of the things that people, I'll ask people is I'll say, who and what are you really? And when I ask them the question, who and what are you really, most people can't answer it. So I'll get them to ask me. So Graham, go ahead, ask me.
Lynette, who and what are you?
I am a divine immortal being, human. And the way that they address me is by the sound Lynette. So we're energy beings having a physical experience. The physical being is the temporary persona. That's the subjective reality. That's the separate story.
Yeah, right.
And the energy being inside is the truth.
That's a spirit?
Well, we could call it spirit, yes.
Okay.
But essentially, if we were going to get really, really technical, it's a vibratory being. It's an energy being.
Okay.
And humans communicate through language, through articulate language. Our vibratory self, the truth of who and what we are, that being communicates through vibration, through symbols and vibration. As we do in our dreams. You notice we communicate in our dreams through symbol and vibration.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the truth is we're energy beings having a physical experience. The awakening allows us to connect to that energy being, and hence all of the intuitive sensitivities that come with it. But you do have to be willing to let go of what you are not in order to embrace who and what you really are.
Yes, it's all mathemagical.
Mm-hmm. Are we watching the time?
Yeah. That's right there.
Good. All right.
Let's double back a bit to when you were talking about the Great Awakening.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned meditation, and Thelma has a question about meditation, and she says, "How do I keep my mind still when I'm meditating?"
Oh, Thelma, my goodness, honey, y'all asked the $100,000 question, y'all did. That is the name of the game, right? How do I keep my mind still? Well, the first thing we want to recognize is another one of my tips and tools is that you can't climb a ladder from the top rung first. Begin at the beginning. So when we begin this practice slowly, one day at a time, we begin to notice that we gain more and more control. It's like anything we learn in life. I don't know about you, but the first time I sat behind the wheel of a car, for the first few minutes, I had trouble just keeping it between the lines. And I mean, now we know that's really not a difficult thing to do.
You got to drive on the road the first time you drove a car?
Oh, see?
I had to drive in a parking lot.
See? Well, actually, yeah, we probably shouldn't tell that story. Skip forward. So at any rate, I had trouble just keeping it between the lines. And now, I mean, I can drive with my hand off the steering wheel for a couple of minutes, or do it with my knee or my pinky, whatever I might need to do. So we become more and more adept with practice. And that's the key. And this is where I say FFD, fidelity, focus, and discipline. Stay faithful to the practice. Continue to focus and stay disciplined. Okay, this is key. I have so many people saying to me, "Oh, Lynette, meditation doesn't work for me. It's easy for everybody else, but it isn't easy for me." No, it isn't easy for anybody. Okay, it's a bit like taming a wild dragon. We talked about this in your
Podcast.
podcast.
Yeah.
The time has come. So that is essentially it. Stay with it. And I have a meditation that I offer for beginners, which is on my webpage, LynetteElinda.com. If you'd like to check it out, it comes with instructions. Now, this is a beginner meditation, and I encourage you to practice it once a day for 28 days straight. Once you do that, you'll find that the mind definitely becomes much more quiet. Patience, stay with it. Don't give up. It's absolutely worth it. I'm going to just mention someone I've been working with now, Laura. Hi, Laura. I hope you're listening. And Laura has been working with me and sharing with me just recently, working with me, how much she's begun to notice the benefits
Of the meditation.
And she's now telling everybody about it and how addictive it becomes. So please, please stay with it. And Laura, you're a wonderful example. Thank you for sharing that with me, because this is what we're after.
One of the things that I know from meditation, Thelma, that it was an image, that when my thoughts are going somewhere, if I find myself, going into thoughts, I used to scold myself when I would get trapped in a thought, and I would tense up. Oh, I'm not supposed to be thinking. I'm not supposed to be thinking. And I would try and get back to whether it be my breath or a phrase that I'm repeating in my mind. And then someone mentioned to me that it's like a puppy, and the puppy is kind of running away, and it's a gentle bringing back to center.
It
It's
is, exactly.
gentle, and it's soft.
And to be patient
And be
with ourselves.
patient.
Like I said, be patient with
Yes.
yourself, be gentle. And the meditation that's on my webpage actually gives a mantra.
Yes.
And I use a mantra which is from the ancient language of Aramaic, which is the language that Jesus spoke. And the mantra is Maranatha. Now, I give further explanation about this on the webpage, but I do recommend that you use a mantra as a focus to keep the mind busy while you kind of scoot in behind and get to the peace. Again, I want to encourage people to listen to the podcast that I did with Graham, number 7. We do talk about that more, but do stay with it and be gentle with yourselves. My goodness,
Yeah.
manage expectations. We've been taught to disconnect from this connection for thousands of human years of history. So be patient. You'll be surprised how quickly it actually comes back into place, especially if you're gentle. Beating ourselves up is not
Doesn't
the
work.
answer. The fastest path
I've
to
tried it.
enlightenment, the fastest path to enlightenment is loving self-care. So be gentle with yourself, be patient, but be firm like you would with a 2-year-old. The 2-year-old screaming, "I don't want to do it. I don't want to go to bed." And you're going to bed. You're going to bed. You're going to bed. 2-year-old still screaming, "You're going to bed." And just like a broken record,
Yeah.
keep it up and be gentle. Good point. Very good point.
Can we just cycle back to
We have some questions here too.
I know. Lots of questions here too. Thank you guys for all writing in. I just want to cycle back to when we were talking about the Great Awakening, the name of the first chapter of Mathamagical.
Mm-hmm.
There's a phrase out right now that's called the Great Reset, and people are talking about the Great Reset as a restructuring of society. How does that relate to the Great Awakening? Do they have commonality or differences, or where do those two fit with you?
Okay, well, they are related, but they're not actually the same thing. The Great Reset is something that our current matrix system is trying to achieve.
Pause. Matrix system, explain.
The matrix would be mainstream reality. It would be the banking system, the education system, the political system, our current systems. Okay, so they're looking to achieve what they're calling the Great Reset.
Okay.
And I don't feel that this is something that we actually want.
Okay.
Not from my perspective. And I really don't want to get into that for this.
Okay.
We really don't want that. And that is a part of why we're experiencing the Great Awakening, so that we can see what they're trying to do. So that we can recognize what's happening. You see, when we awaken to the truth of who and what we are, you develop kind of like an X-ray vision. You start to be able to see through all the shenanigans. You start to recognize, when I recognize what the truth is within myself, I can now see where somebody else is not in truth. So your lie detector gets really good. And the lie detector doesn't work just in your personal story. The lie detector works on all levels of the story. So it's important to awaken to who and what we are, so that our lie detectors, which are connected to our intuition, can start to kick in and show us who and what we really are and what's going on. So I say no to the reset, yes to the Great Awakening.
Okay, awesome.
The reset creates separation. The awakening creates unity.
Beautiful. Lee Sims says, Lynette, I just started meditating using the one on your website, and it has really helped me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is the one that I was referring to. And what is the name?
Her name is Lee Sims.
Lee Sims. Thank you, Lee. Thank you for sharing that. I want to invite anybody else who'd like to check out a beginner's meditation for free with instructional at LynetteElinda.com. Okay.
Yeah, and that's pinned in the comments section on the
I don't take
on
care
the
of any
chat
of
here.
that. Oh, good. Thank you, Graham.
Uh,
Again.
So let me just jump over to Kathy Cohn. She says, I'm a writer as well and find that my writing ends up reflecting things that come to be true. The things that come through my writing perhaps leave me open to whatever will come next.
Okay, well, we could be talking about a couple things. I encourage writing, and I have to actually say, I really didn't write Mathamagical. I have to be honest. Most of it was channeled. We did do some planning, and Graham had a great deal to do with some of that planning. And this is why it was so helpful that you were a client. If Graham had not been a client of mine, he could not have edited and produced the book to produce the result that he has. So I did channel the majority of the book. And what it sounds like to me that you might be doing is that you might be beginning to channel right. And I encourage you to continue, because that is one of the ways that intuition can come through. Another way is to write the question with your right hand and answer the question with your left hand. It doesn't necessarily happen right away because these systems are dormant. Most of our intuitive systems are dormant and they have to be kind of, woken up like they're coming out of a coma. So I really encourage that. Keep going. Keep going.
Can we give away another copy of the book?
Yeah. I love giving things away. Okay.
So for those of you guys who didn't get a chance.
I pulled out two.
Okay, well, sure. We'll give away two.
We have to do two.
You can go on mathamagical.com and click on enter to win. We're going to be giving away copies of the book every episode that we do. So if you don't win this time, you can always enter your name to win next time.
Yeah. I really have to share with people that Mathamagical was a labor of love for me. And I really think it became one for you too. And our core message here that I think became our message, started out as my book and has become in a way our message, is to share with people the keys and the tools to begin to live a life that most of us don't even know is possible. And Graham and I are both living that life. We really are. We really are. And it's possible for all of us. So let's give two more
Okay, you pick
opportunities.
One. You read that one. I'll read this one.
Okay.
I got Pauline Ralph. We will send you an email, let you know how to get your copy of the book.
Congratulations, Pauline. And I have Debbie Weller. So Debbie and Pauline.
Debbie and Pauline, congratulations.
You'll be getting a copy as well.
And we'll be sending you a copy.
Okay, so let's go on. Can we ask some of these questions here, or are we? Well, we have so many. We have so many. Thank you, guys.
We got one question from Lori. Lori's question is actually for a future chapter, but it's a good question, and we can always address this again when we hit this chapter in the future. But Lori asks in the players chapter.
Ooh, that was one of my favorites.
When you spot a predator in your life and you are trying to determine if someone is doing this and is unaware, how do you approach the subject when those people are the ones closest to you, such as your family?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Before we jump into this, for people who haven't got to this chapter yet, there is a distinction between a predator and an unconscious predator.
Right.
And Lori's asking about an unconscious predator.
And we're going to have to be brief here because I would like to keep this question for that chapter, actually, but I do want to be brief for Lori and say that is a process. It takes a little bit of time. Okay. You'll start to see repeat patterns, and you can also start to tune into your intuition and ask yourself, does this person know what they're doing? Can I feel that it's deliberate? Or is it like, wow, they really don't see what they're doing? So again, a big question. I do want to address it when we come to the predators chapter, and I promise that we'll do that. But in the meantime, it's a step-by-step process. It'll take a little bit of time for us to recognize. We don't want to be falsely accusing people. A lot of the times, I know myself, I've had something pointed out, and I'm sure you've probably done it, and I didn't realize that I was doing it. And this is where I encourage people to practice not Joe jobs. A Joe job is a judgment, an opinion, and an expectation. I encourage people to practice blow jobs, which is to be loving, open, and willing. And when we can be loving, open, and willing, we begin to be able to witness the other person's pain. We begin to be able to see their perspective from a non-attached view, which enables us to see whether or not they may be conscious of what they're doing. These are one of the things. But again, that's an awesome question. Wrong chapter, but glad you got to predators. Keep going.
We will address that, Lori, in this the follow-up question in the future episode when we cover players. Sonia also has a question for a future chapter, but we can touch on it if you want. She says, one of my children, that when I feel between the 1 and 10, when you're feeling out how you feel
Oh, I
around
remember
somebody.
this question.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So being challenged when other people are in a triggered state, even when it's our children, being challenged when our children are in that state. I'll be really honest with you. I was a single mother for most of my children's childhoods, and one of my children was very, very challenging. And what I actually began to do was use my meditation practice to maintain that calm. So the mantra that I've been using for my meditation practice for several decades now was actually given to me by a mentor who was a nun. She was a nun for 31 years. And she taught me that mantra. And as soon as I began to repeat the mantra from my meditation, it worked like counting to 10,
Mhm.
but better. Because whenever I used the mantra, my body was used to relaxing. It would immediately start to lower my heart rate and calm me down. So when my children were being challenging and I was a single mom, I would simply begin to practice the mantra to help me to detach. And I do believe that this mom is talking about being compassionate with her child.
Mhm.
And I really I so love that you mentioned that as well, because I see here that you're wanting to stay present. You want to be loving, but we get exhausted, we get worn out. So another piece of that is to practice loving self-care. Don't push yourself too hard. Children can be very challenging at the best of times. So make sure that you're practicing loving self-care and getting yourself the rest that you need so that you can show up for the child in a bigger and better way, which we know is inevitable when it comes to children. And again, the meditation practice, I don't think I could have survived the last 30 years of my life. My daughter's 31, my first child, if I hadn't been meditating. I'll be very honest. That helps me not just with my children in remaining compassionate, but also when I'm dealing with some of the, what should we call, bigger predators out there in life that may not necessarily qualify for compassion, one could say. Okay, so no matter what, I want to take responsibility for how I react or how I respond to any situation. So
Mhm.
set yourself up for success. Get the rest that you need, get the support that you need first. Oxygen mask on self first. Okay, I hope that answers
Yeah,
some of the
Sonia, and
question.
we'll go more into this in depth when we hit the game board chapter as
Hmm.
well,
Hmm.
or scoreboard. I think it's a scoreboard.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I want to jump to Tammy's question. She said, "Are you referring to a physical copy of the book? I was thinking that it was only through the podcast. The podcast is amazing, and I am so happy I purchased Mathamagical, but always love a physical book."
Well, you know what? Actually, this is one of the things that Graham brought up. I have to really be honest that
It's actually my mom. My mom said this. She's like, "I want a
right.
physical copy."
So there is a physical copy of the book, and we decided that we would wait before we made it available for people to begin asking for it. And Graham's mom actually edited the
She did
book.
the transcription.
She did the transcription for us. So it is available technically, and we would like to make it available in hard copy for people going
I
forward.
think that'd be
So
really cool. I think
it
that'd be
was
really
his
cool.
idea, his mom's idea. Yeah,
So
yeah,
yes, Tammy, that's in the future. That's a future
yeah,
plan
definitely.
to have a hard copy too.
One of the main reasons why we didn't go in hard copy, well, actually, the main reason why is because in listening to the Mathamagical journey, and like Graham gives instructions to sit down, to relax, to put headphones on, is that through the sound of my voice, through vibration, and through relaxation, we're able to transcend and transmute our challenges much more quickly. So the hard copy can be very beneficial, but Mathamagical is actually really designed to be optimally served through listening. Okay.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, that about touches on what we've had planned for this episode. We have lots of questions. Are you going to give away another? Okay, Lynette's going to give away another copy of the book before we wrap up
We had
here.
so many requests and so many really great requests. And I have to say, you know, when we were reading through them, there were people who sent some really, really beautiful messages, and we've definitely put you on the list. So we're going to give away another copy.
Yes. Who is it?
Terry Bird.
Terry Bird.
Terry
Congratulations.
Bird.
I will send you an email, or
Yes,
I'll have
Graham will
Sally.
send you because
I'll
I
have
have
Sally send
no
it to
idea
you.
how to do it.
Terry Bird. Terry Bird.
Oh, yes. We should also say we do have a help desk. We have some people working on that right now. And for anybody, I've been getting some emails myself about trying to download the book, and I am not the person you want to ask. So please send your questions to the Mathamagical help desk. And there is a wonderful lady there named Sally who will help you with that.
Yeah, so
okay?
you can find that support on
Mhm.
mathamagical.com. You scroll down to the bottom, and then there's a customer support right there. And you can, if you have a problem, if you have some troubles, you can email Sally, and she will get back to you as soon as she
Yeah.
can. Jerry says, Graham, you did a cameo for me, and I had a wonderful I had a wonderful career as a nurse. I felt what my patient was feeling. Those feelings helped me help them through their recovery or end life experience.
Oh, I want to speak to this.
Whoa. Okay, Jerry. Well,
That's the
thank you for sharing.
mathemagical connection that we're talking about. That's the connection that enables us to be compassionate, empathic, and present for the other. And I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. So
Mhm.
it sounds like you're well on your way to the mathematical connection yourself. That's what we're talking about. That's what creates unity.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that about wraps us up for this week. This first episode.
So when are we doing the next one? We gotta.
Next week.
Are we gonna? Do you want to do it next week?
Next week.
Next week?
Well, why don't we let people know? We haven't decided yet. What do you think?
I think we should probably wait about a week. We're going to give everybody a new copy of the blah 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 blah.
A copy of the book.
Take 10. We're going to give people the chance who've got the book to have a listen, and we do encourage that you don't rush through it, and you may want to listen to it again and again. I've got people who've been working with me for years that are going through it for their third, fourth, and fifth time. So recognize there's layers to it. Don't push yourself. Take your time.
Yeah.
I really encourage you to look at the homework and take the time with the reflections. And we will be back in, say, a week or so, maybe next Sunday.
Yeah.
Maybe we could look at next Sunday joining us. It'll be just before Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Chapter 2, Treasures, next week.
See you there.
Cheers.
Thank you.
I think I did it.